فرانس در واشنگتن. تهدید فزاینده رژیم ایران، گزینه‌های سیاست برای ایالات متحده. مسئولیت آمریکا و ملل متحد در حفاظت و تضمین حقوق ساکنان اشرف. 25 فوریه 2012، 6 اسفند 1390.
Jوريش has served as the policy advisor at the Treasury Department's Office of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. Mr. Jوريش.
I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to be here today to promote the liberal values we cherish in this country. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of assembly. Many of you are here today because of your concern for universal human rights. We all certainly want a better and brighter future for Iran that has been ruled by radical mullahs since 1979. Thankfully, the world's attention has finally begun to turn towards the mullahs' pursuit of nuclear weapons and their sponsorship of terrorist organizations. We must do everything in our power to stop their march towards nuclearization. If Iran gets the bomb, it will be a game-changing event that will have far-reaching consequences. But what can the Western world do? What can each and every one of you do in order to stop them? There are only three ways to influence such an outcome: diplomatically, economically, and militarily. Today I'm going to spend the majority of my remarks on how to engage in effective economic warfare that, if implemented expeditiously, will stop the Iranian regime in their tracks. The government of Iran is facilitating its proliferation and terrorism activities through the world's financial system, using its state-owned banks and an array of front companies and other deceptive techniques specifically designed to evade the controls of responsible financial institutions. There are currently 30 Iranian banks operating around the globe, banks that operate in the UK, France, Italy, the UAE, Russia, Dubai. Why are Iranian banks operating around the world? These banks are able to procure much-needed hard currency in order to fund illicit behavior. Many of these financial institutions have operations in the United States. Other banks that don't have U.S. operations here themselves have relationships with U.S. financial institutions and access the U.S. market. We have major leverage over these financial institutions, but we're not using it. Can you imagine if we gave those banks a choice to choose between our market and the Iranian market? None of them would choose the Iranian market over our market. I urge you to talk to your members of Congress, as this is the most powerful of ways of making Iran feel the financial pain. I can't stress this point strongly enough. Clearinghouses. Those are sub-financial institutions that many of you might not have heard of, but recently it's become public that Iran has been abusing international clearinghouses to the tune of billions of dollars a year. Iran seems to be cleverly exploiting clearinghouses to circumvent U.S. sanctions. In a court decision that has received surprisingly little media coverage, a New York district judge ordered Citibank to freeze almost $2 billion of debt securities allegedly belonging to the Islamic Republic of Iran. According to U.S. judicial documents filed both in New York and California, these funds are held at Citibank in the name of Luxembourg-based clearinghouse and bank Clearstream. Citibank, along with every other U.S. financial institution, is supposed to freeze all Iranian dollar transactions with limited exceptions for certain foodstuffs, textiles, and medicines. Under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, institutions in violation of U.S. law are subject to a fine of either $250,000 or an amount that is twice the amount of the transaction, which could make Citibank potentially liable for a penalty up to $4 billion. The U.S. government, and in particular the Treasury Department, should carry out an extensive assessment of how to prevent Iran from abusing international clearinghouses and act accordingly. Otherwise, Iran will continue to have access to hard currency, including the U.S. dollar, which undoubtedly aids and abets their illicit behavior. Now, many of you come from Iran, so you know better than most about the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC, that Imam Khomeini created after the revolution in 1979 to protect the Islamic order of the Iranian government. Since its founding, it has now evolved into a political, military, and economic powerhouse in Iran. It reportedly has close ties to the supreme leader and President Ahmadinejad himself, who came from the IRGC. The IRGC is believed to number about 125,000 members. It operates most of Iran's surface-to-air missiles. It's believed to have custody over most of all other chemical, biological, and radiological weapons. And were Iran to obtain nuclear weapons, experts believe the IRGC would operate them themselves. The IRGC has been designated by the U.S. government for its involvement in proliferating of weapons of mass destruction. It's played a major role in Iran's oil industry, in construction, and obviously Iran's military complex. It is also one of the most corrupt components of the Iranian regime. Options that we have at our disposal are as follows. First, the government should release a mapping of all high-ranking officials of the IRGC, what they do in the organization, and any contact information we have on them. This will hopefully curb their freedom movement outside of Iran, or at the very least put them on notice. We know who you are, and we can find you. Bunyads. Bunyads are the Iranian charitable trusts that dominate Iran's non-petroleum economy. Bunyads control an estimated 20 to 40% of Iran's GDP. Bunyads are tax exempt, receive major subsidies from the government, but do not have much in the way of government control. They answer only to the supreme leader of Iran. As charity organizations, they're supposed to provide social services to the poor and the needy. Iran has over 12 million people today living under the poverty line, 6 million of which are reportedly not receiving government or bunyad assistance. To name one example, one of the most popular bunyads and most prominent, the Foundation for the Oppressed and Disabled, supposedly controls 20% of the country's production of textiles, 40% of soft drinks, and 2/3 of all glass products, and a dominant share in tiles, chemicals, tires, and foodstuffs. It therefore should come as no surprise that Iranian private sector finds it difficult to compete against the bunyads. They have political connections, clout, and their major government subsidies in hand. Given this major vulnerability, it might be high time again for the United States government to publicly name and shame all the major bunyads. It also might consider designating them, thus making it illegal to make a charitable donation to any one of these organizations. This is the type of organization that should be on the FTO list. This would also have the added benefit of raising the profile of the issue with those in Europe and Asia that presently give money to these types of organizations. Let me close with this final thought. We have all the tools necessary to persuade and punish companies doing business with Iran today. If we are truly going to stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons, it might be prudent to use some, if not all, the bows in our quiver. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for being here today.